the question you have to ask is, how does Bitcoin fare during that period, right? So for me, I got to imagine that Bitcoin would at least drop. I mean, just to get back to the lows, we drop about 8 to 9,000, right in that vicinity.
So that was Gareth Soloway. He's been a professional trader for over 20 years now. And this guy actually called the Bitcoin top back in November of 2021. And you can see he's calling for lower price action here over the next year. He believes $8,000 Bitcoin is coming very soon. So, what does that look like in terms of a percent loss? At current prices, that means Bitcoin is going to be going down around another 67%. So it is right now a great time to be selling for some gains, for some profit. If it does go down to 8,000 right now, would be a great time to be selling, taking some profits off of the table. You guys know the Bitcoin bros think we're actually bullish this year. There's a lot of bearish people out there in the market thinking that we're going into a recession, thinking that crypto prices are going down even further. Bitcoin bros don't share that view. But let's go ahead and see what else Gareth has to say about this cryptocurrency and Bitcoin market.
And then what we saw was we touched the 25,000 level, actually piercing it. And then the negative was the reversal, right? So I think any technician looks at that and says, okay, that's a topping tail, that's a reversal day. You have to be a little bit careful if you're a Bitcoin bull when you see that type of price action, because essentially what it means is you saw this massive amount of euphoria, FOMO with retail investors in Bitcoin buying in. And then we saw somehow a reversal of epic proportion, which again wasn't the small investor selling all of a sudden, right? I mean, the small investor's not saying, oh, 25 is the top here. It's usually the bigger money. And so when you see bigger money unloading, you have to pay attention to that. And so at this point, that's a top, right? Now, again, can tops be violated? Can they be broken? Absolutely. But I'm never one to jump the gun. I want it to prove itself before I go on that side. So right now, you have a top at around 25,300 on Bitcoin. And unless that gets taken out with a daily close, you have to respect that as a short-term top. Near term, I do expect Bitcoin to come back in, and even over the midterm, I still think there's trouble brewing in the crypto market. So I'm not a person that thinks the lows are in yet. I know that may sound crazy to a lot of investors in Bitcoin after this big run, but again, I would just draw my attention. If I zoom out on this chart, this is a great bounce, nothing to take away from it. But in the scheme of the move and in the scheme of the bear market, we have to keep in mind that by no means are we back above major technical levels. Like 25,000 is a technical level. It's a mid-level one. But to be honest, I'll show you where the big one is. The big one is at 30,000 right here. And the reason why psychologically this is a big level is because this was your mid-period of the 2021 bull market, right? This was the low pivot right here. So basically, I'm saying to myself is that if for me to be convinced that the lows are in on Bitcoin, we need to trade above, not just for a day, but I want to see it hold above for a little while above 30,000. And then I would say, okay, the lows are in. But until that, I think this could be a bear market rug pull rally, and I would be very careful. Yeah, so as of now, I do think we do take out the lows of, I think it was around 15,700, and we probably head down to 12 to 13. I still am in the camp that we have to have max pain in the crypto market. So you're probably talking about a Pierce of 10 to achieve that. That would be where most retail would probably really panic and consider dumping their bags, if you will. So I'm still in that camp. I think the driving force isn't going to be another FTX. Like, I'm not really envisioning that there's going to be a ton more of these major fraud scenarios. The way we get to that lower target is probably with a macro recession, right? So if we think about it, we know that the Fed, and even yesterday we heard from Fed presidents that they were going to likely raise rates further. We saw the PPI numbers are still very hot. And so they're going to keep interest rates high for a long period, at least the entire year. It's very hard for me to imagine that Bitcoin and the stock market can withstand that. And more importantly, that the economy can withstand that. So at some point we slip into a recession. If that's the case, the S&P probably has another 25% down at least. And if the S&P drops 25%, the question you have to ask is, how does Bitcoin fare during that period, right? So for me, I got to imagine that Bitcoin would at least drop. I mean, just to get back to the lows, we drop about 8 to 9,000, right in that vicinity. And then the question is, do we go even lower with the S&P collapsing that much? And I think we do. I think that that's the next sell. So you had the first phase of this bear market, which was kind of the bankruptcies and everything like that. You'll see some of that continue if we go down to the levels that I say. But I think that the big driving force won't be unregulated crypto. I think the regulations are coming. It's going to be more the macro environment where people get very, very risk adverse.
So let me know what you guys think about Gareth's thoughts about Bitcoin going that low. And this is the CPI inflation chart here. You can see that we have been going just parabolic in terms of inflation since the end of 2021, hitting all-time high inflation back here in June of 2022. And I do believe inflation will slow down over the next couple of years. I think we'll start to see lower inflation readings that will definitely help the markets. But one thing I think that Gareth is leaving out here, even if we do go into a recession, even if we do go into an economic downturn, this was all caused by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve wanted to raise interest rates and they wanted to put pressure on the market, and they did just that. And I think what people are going to start to understand is what the Federal Reserve is doing is not sustainable long term. And what you'll eventually have is that Bitcoin decoupling from the stock market. And people are going to start to understand the value of Bitcoin, even the Bitcoin haters out there, when we start to have things like central bank digital currencies. When people start to understand more that the Federal Reserve can't just print out unlimited amounts of money and expect things to be okay, or just raise interest rates and expect things to be okay. We need a fixed supply currency that can't be manipulated by anybody. Not saying Bitcoin has to be that global reserve currency, but it can be that asset that you invest in that can help protect you from the Federal Reserve, from inflation, from all of this quantitative easing we've seen over the past 10 years. And I think people are starting to understand that is when we're going to start to see Bitcoin decouple and finally, take its own path and not trade in parallel with like the QQQ and the S&P 500. But let's go ahead and see what Gareth has to say here.
Yeah, and you're 100% right? So we had this scenario where coming into 2023, it was initially the first half that's going to be horrendous, and then I heard about a recovery in the second half. Well, we've obviously seen the jobs numbers be amazing, and the economy is holding up in the first half, and we're already, we're not at the end of the first quarter yet, but we're not too far away. So now you're seeing it shift, and I think so you're already proving some of those people wrong, and you're right. When the majority says something, it's usually not the case. So the question is, are they going to kind of just continue to shift down the pike, if you will, to kind of push that into the second half? And that's where I am. I'm in the second half camp where I think the first half remains strong. I think the economy, again, remains strong. But I think the second half is where we start to see weakness. And then I also see that it's going to drag into 2024. So I think a lot of these economists that are saying this are just early to the punch. I think they're ultimately going to be right, but a lot of them will question themselves. Like listen, we all do, right? I've been in many trades where it goes against me. I'm like, wait a minute, was my thesis incorrect here? And that's just the nature of trading and analyzing and stuff like that. So that's where I am. One of the things that I'll point out too, which has me nervous about Bitcoin for 2024 is everyone is saying that it's going to start rallying into the halving, right? And that makes me very nervous that everyone is anticipating that, especially when you have totally different scenarios where you don't have the Fed printing money, you don't have interest rates near zero like they've been for the last so long, right? So there's like these things like you're mentioning about that when everyone's saying something that gets me a little bit nervous.
And I thought it was very interesting what Gareth just said right there, because we just hit an all-time high for the search term recession. And anytime we hit an all-time high for the search term recession on Google over the past 20 years, that would have been the best time to invest into the market. You can see back here, during the COVID crash, everybody was searching for recession. And then also back here in late 2008, early 2009, that would have been a great time to pick up some stocks. So in my personal opinion, what I've seen on the internet, it seems like more people are bearish than bullish. I've seen so many bears on crypto Twitter, on crypto YouTube, and I think a lot of people think $10,000 is coming for Bitcoin, and it might never happen. But I guess we will see. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below, and thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video. We just talked about something very similar over on our Patreon. Make sure to check that out if you guys haven't already. The link will be in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Aaron from the Bitcoin Bros. I'm out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.